I normally, as you know, talk about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, as it's called in Canada. But I just thought I'd do something different this time and look at a slightly different cryptid, but still a North American one, and one that is possibly seen in other areas of the world. So I thought I'd look at Dogman. So my talk today is Dogman Debunked, an attempt to objectively evaluate the Dogman phenomena. So, you know, I'm going to look today, I'm going to try to sort of evaluate Dogman sightings, Dogman photos, and look at what other explanations there might be, but particularly to put forward the hypothesis, could it be in some cases what people are seeing could be a type of Bigfoot. So I'm going to talk first about what Dogman is, describe it, talk about it, Dogman type and dogmen phenomena in folklore, modern day accounts. Going to look at some quite famous photos and try to analyze those. Going to look at ideas of misperception and mistaken identity and what might be going on there for people to do that. If that's the case, then I'm going to look at, the evidence that some cases might be a Bigfoot, and look at other possible explanations, and then look at ideas for research and make some conclusions at the end. Okay. So, okay, could we go to the third slide? I think I've done the second one already.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't realise I forgot to say go forward. So my fault. Yeah, that's the summary anyway. That's what I'm going to look at today. So if we can go to the next one, that would be great. Okay, so those are some of the images people have constructed. The blue one there is the famous Linda Godfrey book on Dogman, and those are other reconstructions. Now, some of those, as you see, have got sort of quite, the one on the right's got quite human-like legs. Some of the other ones have got quite dog-like legs. Some have got slightly flatter faces. Some are, the one on the bottom left is slightly very wolf-like, quite werewolf-like. So they do vary. Okay, can I go to the next slide, please? Okay. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so Dogman, 6 foot plus tall, often described as 7 foot by people plus, even really large. Upright walking. It can go on all fours though. Head, it varies. It can be canine-like, sometimes more humanoid-like, baboon-like. Sometimes, it's always describing that as a snout, as opposed to a lot of Bigfoot descriptions of a flat face. Big canines, people always focus on the big canines, and glowing yellow or red eyes or non-glowing eyes. Limbs, long arms below the knee, bent legs like a dog, or straight legs like a man, or a bit of in between. Makes sound like a distressed woman, wail, howl, and often smells unpleasant. Perceives to be aggressive and a threat, invokes feeling of dread in most people, but very few reported attacks. Inquisitive, it often peeks through windows of cars or houses at night, and it often follows people. Fast moving, can go on 2 legs or 4, and areas it's seen in, forests often, but also towns and cities. Most reported in Michigan, and surrounding sort of states around the area. But they have been reported all over the world. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, Dogman and folklore. CJ's probably going to have to pronounce this for me. Cynocephaly, or cynocephalus. It means having the head of a dog, a man with a dog's head. And that phenomena's been all around the world. First Nation, often people talked about to do with the dog star legends as well, about men with dogs' heads. often probably to do with the animism beliefs as well. Talks about shapeshifters, people who can turn into a wolf, and often with the Native American or First Nation peoples, when they call them, it was often connected with a power animal, and the shaman would associate with that animal to get its power. Often talked about guardians of sacred sites as well. There's some connections there with possibly dogmen, and tribal warrior dogmen, Cheyenne tribe, I might be mispronouncing that. Fierce warriors named after legends of dogs transforming into fierce fighters. Folklore says the last of them shapeshifted into dogs. A lot of that is Western stuff added on. Don't think there's much evidence of that, but they definitely perhaps sort of worked themselves up into a frenzy. Like the berserkers, really, in terms of identifying with the wolf and trying to get the wolf's power. There's probably some rituals going on there. Egypt, the dog, jackal-headed Anubis, god of the dead. I can't even pronounce these. They're the son of Horus, Damutef, I might be pronouncing that. Dog-headed again. Wapawet, might be pronouncing that. Opener of the ways. So lots of different use of people with dog heads. Possibly dog jackals thought connection with digging and access to the because of the access to the underworld. That's the theories. Although they do think Anubis was possibly an aardvark as well. That's another theory. There's all sorts of theories going on there. China, Japan, year of the dog, 11th year, depicted as human figure with dog's head. The Book of Liang, I'm not pronouncing that. Buddhist missionary describes an island of dog-headed men, possibly describing Japan or the Americans. It's thought. Interesting, the Ainu have dog connections. They have one of the oldest breeds of dog, Ainu or Hokkaido dog, and they used to use them for hunting. So it could be there was something to do with that as well. So all over the world, there's lots of different sort of legends about dogs. So I'm just going to make my screen a bit bigger so I can see all of this, because I can't fully see it as well. I think I've got it in there. Okay, check I've got. Yeah, I think I've got all of that. Okay, can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, yep. So in Europe, St. Christopher was often depicted with a dog's head. Non-Christians are often described as dogs. Greek, there was also a Greek dog-headed baboon sort of entity described as well, which might be relevant to what we're going to talk about later. It's thought to be language confusion with St. Christopher, confusion, somebody from Canaan, Canius, with Caninus, I might be pronouncing that wrong, with canine. So it's thought that, people couldn't obviously check this out. They were mishearing the words or misinterpreting the words. So then they literally sort of seeing things. So he was from Canaan, but they thought it meant dog. And then they thought, possibly he did have a dog's head. There's also metaphors like act like dogs, think like dogs. People were just taking it literally. And Marco Polo describes people of Adam Islands as all just like big mastiff dogs. But then later on, it was described that he'd seen dog-headed men. So you can see how these things without modern internet and people having, things to check them out, how this got, misconstrued. Confusing animals, limited available classification. ASSAP proposed then that dogmen on Madagascar are indeed Indri lemurs. People can only classify things according to existing taxonomy. So the books in those days were very limited. So if they didn't have a category for it, stick it in the closest one, taxonomy. So it's sort of, you can see why they did it, but it's not helpful. Werewolf legends likely explained as rabies in humans. We're not going to talk about lycanthropy, and I'm probably pronouncing that as well. I'm not very good at pronouncing this, but we're not going to explore that in the talk, because we're looking at things that have a fixed characteristic. It seems to be an animal that stays in that state rather than a man changing into a dog or a wolf. So, okay. So these are some of the images so that's Anubis, obviously in the middle. Oh, sorry, can we go to the picture? No, that'd be great. Yep, thank you.
Sorry,
great timing. Yeah, it's actually what I wanted you to do, but sorry, I got back. Yeah, okay. So as we can see, those the ink sketches, they are, you know, quite medieval representations of dog-headed men. And there's obviously a statue there on the bottom left of a dog-headed man. And obviously at the top right, the classical werewolf. And then we can see St. Christopher there depicted as a dog-headed man. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, modern sightings, first recorded sighting by a white man, because I think we have to be careful, you know, a lot of history is written from the white man's perspective, and First Nation people said there were dog-headed men, as we'll discuss a bit later. But from the first, like, you know, recorded from a white man's perspective, 1887, white lumberjacks at Wexford County, Michigan, said they saw men with men with dogs' heads approach them. In 1938, in Paris, Michigan, Robert Fortney was attacked by 5 wild dogs and said one of the 5 walked on 2 legs. Reports of similar creatures also occurred in Allegan County in the 1950s and Manistee, I might be pronouncing that, oh, it's difficult to pronounce, and Cross Village. I think one of those, I think it was Manistee, one of them involved people in a boat, and this thing was swimming and approached them, and they had to move the boat quick. Next reporting sightings increased following the 1987 disc jockey Steve Cook. He was a DJ in Traverse City, Michigan, recorded a song entitled Legend. It was actually an April Fool's Day joke, and he actually didn't even know about the Dogman legends. He made it up. He later modified it, and there's a new version when he read more about Dogman afterwards. But he was quite surprised when he got all these calls to say that people had seen Dogman afterwards. So was that a case of priming, or was it, and people started to interpret things because of that, or was it a case that things were really there? He himself said he didn't even know about them until after writing the song. So Dogman interest took off from them. There was a terrible high increase in sightings. Modern sightings, good sources of. I'm not going to go into each sighting in detail because you can read that. They really, really vary. Some, as I'll discuss later, very much obviously Bigfoot, some other misinterpretations, but some very clearly talk about, you know, wolf-like thing that was consistently walking upright and very large fangs, you know, that there's some of those are like that. It's still very common in the Michigan area. There might be a cultural influence there. Vic Cundiff, I think he's very good. He's Dogman Radio. He talks a lot about that, and he's got some very interesting sort of sightings described on there. Lots and lots of examples. That's the best one to listen to, I think. Linda Godfrey of in the books, Beast of Bray Road, the Michigan Dogman. You've just seen the picture from it, the blue picture earlier. G.P. Haggart, Michigan Dogman, True Stories from Eyewitnesses. He gives a really interesting, just completely straight analysis. Interesting enough, the guy's an evangelical ex-preacher, very strong religious. I expected him to start saying it was demonic, but give the guy credit, he didn't at all. He just completely gives an objective description, so it was really good. Sorry, can we just go back? I've just lost one. Yeah, sorry. Tom Lyons, Dogman Encounters book series. He's done quite a few series as well. Yeah. Okay, sorry if we can go forward now. That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, consideration of some images. So I'll just describe them. I'll show you the photos. A Michigan, well-known photograph, supposedly Michigan. It's called Nanny's Farm in Michigan. It was labelled as. Now, that's the one. Yep. Now, if we could just stay on that, that'd be brilliant. No, yeah, thank you. That. Now you look at that one. It does look a little bit too good to be true. It's been found to have Asian origins. It isn't from America at all. and somebody's actually identified the background as another picture, and this is a copy of a well-known Dogman image, so they've sort of photoshopped that. But that was, you know, when you initially see it, it looks really good, looks quite convincing. But you know, somebody did a lot. That's thing, you know, look at the origins of these, because somebody did some work and literally found out it's exactly where it originated was Asia. So that was quite a good debunk there. If we can go back to the description, back a slide, please. Yeah. Okay, Lamppost Dogman 1961. This sounded really a good one initially. Bloke said his father had taken it in 1961. His father worked as a night watchman. He said he'd sort of taken this shot. The man claimed it wasn't photoshopped. A lot of people queried, as you say, I think we'll go forward two, and then we'll see the shot and describe it. That's probably better if we're looking at it. Okay, that one. Yep. The one to the left. That's the shot I'm talking about. Now, if you look at it, it's a dogman, a supposed dogman, under a lamppost in the light. Now, that instantly alerted a lot of people that wasn't quite a usual animal behavior. It would tend to sort of not go towards the light if it's dark, so that instantly got the alarm bells ringing for people. Alternative explanations. I looked at that and I thought it's a couple up to something against the lamppost. That was my initial feeling. The crypto crew did a great analysis and debunk of this, and they went thoroughly through it and realised it had been photoshopped. Now, the bloke who'd given them the photo swore it hadn't, and they realised it's actually a modern image, so instantly takes away its credibility. But, you know, it was quite convincing. There was a good background story to it, you know, a personal thing which tends to drag people in. So, right, okay, the one on the top right with the glowing yellow eyes, that's called the Onaway image from Michigan. There's multiple witnesses, so that draws you in to, you know, feel it's quite convincing. But there's something a bit wrong with this. It's taken from the back window of a car, and they said they used a flash. Now, instantly, that gets you suspicious because flash shouldn't work through glass. So they claimed it was illuminated by the flash. So that in itself starts ringing alarm bells. Also, if it was illuminated by anything, it would have been the red lights at the back. So it would have been red illumination, and it wasn't. So the witness reaction, they didn't seem to describe much of a reaction. They didn't say things like, we were terrified, or my little girl started screaming. They were, oh my goodness, we've got a werewolf now. Good outfit, Sujay. Brilliant. He's going to get it stuck on him now, isn't he? No, he's got the hat back on. Right, brilliant. You've been planning that for weeks, haven't you? Wasn't expecting that either, folks. Anyway, back to the bear, which it looks like a bear, doesn't it? But it was actually traced to an image of some stuffed wolves in a museum. That's what it's thought to be. Somebody found an image that exactly matched and slightly changed it, but that's what it's thought to be. Because things, you know, just looking at it, things just weren't right. The lighting wasn't right. The people's reaction wasn't right. So it is a fake. Okay. The bottom right one, you might have seen this. There's quite a good film with it running. That's called the Gable film. That's famously, it was the story behind it was a film discovered from a film bought from a garage sale, and it was meant to be a 70s film. And then this thing sort of runs very convincingly. Doesn't look like a bear or doesn't look like a wolf. It looks very unusual. And then another film was meant to be found with basically the cameraman who filmed it deceased with all his guts hanging out and a policeman pulling the tarpaulin up to show people and then covering over the body. So it was all very dramatic, but a little bit too good to be true, finding the second film, wasn't it? And I think if he'd stuck with just the first film, nobody would have got suspicious. But it turned out it was a hoax. So when he was pushed by Monster Quest, he admitted it, and then he showed them how he did it. And it was somebody in a ghillie suit running on all fours, a human. And the second bit with the guts was he buried the guy, and of course the guy was actually legs were under the ground, but he added the guts. All very, very clever, but well done. But it was quite interesting how he showed how he actually did it. Right, okay, can we go on to the next shot, please? Okay, these are what the one on the left and the top right are called tree peekers, a bit like the Bigfoots looking from behind the tree, sneaking out. I haven't bothered to go into the analysis. I couldn't find anything anyway, but initially, but I thought, actually, I'm not going to bother. I think they were just put up without a description from what I could ascertain. But the one on the left is very, very clearly a deer. You can tell by the ears, the eyes. That's clearly a deer. The one on the top right looks slightly like Anubis, but if you look closely, I'm pretty certain that's a tree stump that's either burnt away or rotted. But the one on the bottom right, that's a little bit more intriguing now. People are interpreting the bit on the top as the head, with the nose, ears sticking up, and arms when it sat down with something to eat on its lap. But if you've got that in your head and you've got it that it's a head, that's what you see. But if so, like somebody's pointed out, you think backside, it's very likely to be the two back legs and the backside of a bear, and then the far right is the other arm of the bear digging, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it wasn't until it was pointed out to me did I spot that. So I think these things, it just shows how priming and expectation can affect your interpretations of events and photos. Okay, can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, so as the saying, misperception can really affect things, and the wrong animal. Now, bears, Dogman can be a bear, but it's saying this thing's frequently on its legs. It could be a bear standing upright, but they only tend to stay on their legs for a short while and stagger a bit to get a better view when they're fighting or when they're reaching food. Wolves standing upright. Yeah, but wolves will actually stand upright even when they're not leaning on things, just to get a better view of things, and dogs will as well. Wolves, when they're upright, a fully grown wolf can be up to 6 feet long. Can we go to the next slide? I've actually got a shot of that, I think. I think it's on the next one. Yeah, okay, it's the one after that, actually. I can go to the next one after that. On some of them, anyway. Oh, yeah, if we can go a bit further on, sorry. Oh, there we are, that's okay. So that's a wolf standing upright. So if you saw that, it's actually quite similar to some of the images of Dogman, the left-hand side wolf. But as you can see, there's also a dog with a disability. That's the very famous Bondi vet dog that he's had on quite a few of his shows. Ironically, my little claim to fame, I was standing on St David's Station. There's a guy by me, Aussie guy, said hello, thought he looks just like Bondi vet. 2 months later, I found out he had been the Bondi vet. I was dead annoyed I didn't say hello. I did say hello to him, but I didn't actually talk to him, but he was actually him. He's filming down here. So that also at the bottom right, that's Pedals. Now, she was a very famous upright walking black bear. She had got a disability, and like the dog, she'd adapted to walk on her back legs, and she could run, literally like go at quite a pace. It wasn't full-blown run, but it was like a little canter. She could go very, very fast. So that shows that some bears, some of them do adapt. So can we go a couple of slides back, please, CJ, again? And then back the previous one. Yeah, thank you. So, okay, so animals behaving use. I've just said disability, dog, bear adaptations. Now, if we go to the next slide on, talk about mangy bears. So the photo on the far left and the bottom middle, those are two mangy bears. Now, I independently came up with this conclusion that some Dogman sightings, Michigan Dogman particularly, could be a mangy bear, because they can stand upright and they very much look werewolf-like, don't they? When they're in that state, they go very skinny. They're very closely related to dogs anyway. They came from the same line, but they very much look, and that arms on the left one, they look quite human-like, don't they? So, and also bare paws of bears can look, without the fur on, can look quite human-like hands as well. Now, interesting enough, I found out last night that Pat Spain, he's done a recent series, and he actually independently came to that conclusion as well. That's his, because he's a zoologist. And one thing he pointed out, which I hadn't spotted, was some of the Michigan Dogman descriptions talked about an animal that was eating its prey, leaning over but holding it upwards with its paws. Now, as he highlighted, that's not a wolf behavior, but it's a bear behavior. So that's what got him hooked into that theory. And I think that's highly likely, because so many people saw that. It must have been, judges the lot. It must be a real animal. And I'm pretty sure from the descriptions, it was a mangy bear they were seeing. Talking about undergrowth misinterpreted, it's a very amazing piece of art about for her and the hunter, but basically all it is a stag standing directly behind a tree stump. But you can see how juxtaposition of things can be completely misinterpreted. Again, with a dog on a tree stump, if you saw that at the wrong angle, and the light's not good, when the light's not good, your brain starts adding stuff. It starts, 2 + 2 = 5, or it'll add stuff. So this also could be happening. And also, I was trying to find a good image of a man in a hoodie. Now, I didn't find the ideal image, but some of the Parker jacket, but some of the Parker jackets, they zip right up and you get this tube-like effect. And also you've got, when you've washed it a couple of times, the fur at the front looks like jagged teeth. Now, some of the descriptions said it looked, somebody leaned over, knocked on their window, no, actually knocked on the window like a human. And then, they freaked out. Now, they said it had abnormal teeth. Now, this is one of my theories. If they're primed to think there was a dogman around, they saw somebody in a parka, Arctic type parka, the false fur, when it's been washed, would look like jagged teeth. So that's another one of my theories. Okay. Can we just go back a slide, please? Oh, yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think I've done that one now. Actually, I didn't realise. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if we go forward another slide. Thank you. Okay. So another thing is getting body parts confused. If Bigfoots are frequently described as a really badly matted hair. So if you've got a dogman type, somebody described a dogman, and it's got Bigfoot-like face, humanoid face, but it's got ears, it could easily be matted hair. You've only got to see one bit sticking up and you just interpret that as an ear, upright ear. So so that's possible. And as I said, the one with the one that was the obviously the back end of a bear, the photo called the Texan image, back end was confused with the front, and because your brain was primed to think it was the front, you were seeing the head, but it was actually other bits of the animal. So and also it could be holding something. Now if you're holding something, it could be misconstrued to be that's part of you. And I think the when the conquistadors invaded South America, they weren't used to seeing people riding horses, so they interpreted it as, you know, one being. You know, they couldn't understand that it was separate beings. And sometimes when because they just hadn't got a concept of men riding horses, so when we, you know, see something, we could, you know, something particularly holding something, it could be misconstrued. Now Momo the Bigfoot, he was often seen carrying dead dogs. Now if he was holding up near his face and you just saw the dog's head, you would possibly think he was dog-headed. So and also apes and monkeys, like there's been accounts of Bigfoots having dogs. They often kill dogs and attack them, but there's also been some accounts coming forward of them keeping dogs. Now that sounds really far-fetched, but they've found baboons recently, and monkeys have been baboons have been actually in Africa. I think it's Kenya, it might be Ethiopia, have been actually kidnapping dogs, especially puppies, and, you know, dominating them and then forcing them to look after them and be guards. There's actually videos of this happening. Amazing. I've got this on a photo, the next photo. As we see, there's jokey photos people have done on the internet, men with dog-headed men. So, or if we can go couple on, please. That's it, that's the one. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we see yeah, oh sorry, back a bit. Yeah, that's one, that's one. So at the bottom right we can see baboons with a puppy. They've actually, there's video of them dominating that puppy, so he became submissive, and then they were, you know, clearly looking after him. So jokey one there, Bigfoot with its pet dog. Also the dog-headed man, the bottom middle, obviously that's how things can be misinterpreted. Monkey there, obviously with, I think it's a rhesus monkey with a pet puppy that it's looked after. And there was a lovely video a while back, wasn't there, of one of the rhesus monkey rescuing a puppy from a fire, so they will be quite protective. And obviously again, top right, dog-headed man again, taking a call. So this is how these things could be misinterpreted, misconstrued. Okay, okay. So, and another issue is it another cryptid we're seeing? You know, are people misinterpreting things? Is it, as I said, a Bigfoot I'm going to talk about? Is it an Ottoman? That's another cryptid, because that could be interpreted having a wolf-like face. And there's also legends of direwolves. They've got various names given to them in the various First Nation people. Got different names from them, different names from Canada, but talked about a giant wolf, and that's often that behaves unusually, and that's often consistently talked about in the tribe. So there could well be something. It could well be, though, that it's a wolf. Black wolves do look different. If you see an English Bull Terrier, a white one, occasionally you see dark ones, and they don't look like the same dog. They almost look like Labradors. So you can see how the colour changes people's perception of the animal, and they're not used to seeing it. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, yeah, one after that, please. Oh, sorry, next one. Okay, so one of my queries is Dogman really a Bigfoot? Now, I mean, I think as Minnesota, the Michigan Dogman, I think it's highly likely it was a mangy bear. but some of the, as I said, that's Pat Spain's theory as well. So, but some of the descriptions of Dogman, a lot of the descriptions do tally. The height's about right, 7 foot-ish. Inquisitive behaviour. Bigfoots also will look through windows, cars and houses. Vocalizations like a wailing, screaming woman. That's just like a Bigfoot call. Hairy all over. Not all dogmen though. Some of them have talk about hair missing, which is consistent with mangy bear. There's also a smell, quite a strong, musky, horrible smell reported, which is consistently reported with Bigfoot. Quite nauseating, this smell, which is same with dogmen. Long arms again, same consistency there. Large canines in male Bigfoots often reported. Swimming as well. Quite a few dogmen report swimming. So again, Bigfoots are known to swim. Perceived feeling of dread when get close. There's theory that this is infrasound created by Bigfoots, and it's interesting that Dogman, but things often not happening. People feel a real sense of dread. They're going to die, and so they do with Bigfoots as well when they see them. But some descriptions don't tally, like long canine type jaw, pointed ears, long short claws on hind legs and front legs, dog-like legs and narrow shoulders at times in some sightings. So different types of Bigfoots, and you know, that one again could be a mangy bear because they've got quite narrow shoulders. So, but that doesn't, the legs aren't quite right. But different types of Bigfoot already known to be quite distinct and appear to be different species. Now, northern and southern types, we've got the classic northern Bigfoot, and the southern types are skunk ape, which is a lot more ape-like, a lot smaller. So we know already there seems to be good evidence of different types of Bigfoot. And they've also got different behaviors as well. Skunk ape's a lot more aggressive than the bigger northern type. So other subspecies possibly identified for Bigfoot. There's more human-like and more ape-like. So we know there's the catty apes, the more ape-like, and some of them, the ones I saw, were quite human-like. Very similar to Homo habilis sort of view. There's also some of the First Nation tribes about the Gugway, which is like a baboon type Bigfoot, quite long face and longer snout. Could this be Dogman in some cases? Possibly. Could younger and older Bigfoot have different distinct features and different behaviors? Possibly. You get your gangly teenager with a long jaw until he fills out. Starving and well Bigfoot again might look different. Young Bigfoots are known to climb trees and go on all fours more and be more daring, so that might explain things as well. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah, that's the Gugway. That's supposedly a picture of a Gugway on the left. You notice the baboon type snout on it. The middle one is a reconstruction of that sort of humanoid type Bigfoot, a Dogman, sorry. Slightly Bigfooty, but still looking quite different in some ways. And there's another reconstruction on the top right of the Gugway. And there's a theory, it might be Dinopithecus, which was a very large baboon. Often depicted as extremely large, but it wasn't that. I think it was 5 foot tall at the most. But there's a possibility, there's some theorize that might be what's happening. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So North American Dogman Project's got variations of Dogman. They've gone a lot into that, talk about some less long face, some legs and shoulders like upright dog, versus some like Bigfoot legs, broad versus narrow shoulders, some in between. So there's a lot of, you know, the people who research, there's a lot of evidence that some of them are a lot more Bigfoot-like than others. Vic Cundiff took Dogman Encounters, reports multiple types of Dogman. 2 distinct types, very canine types, then things in between, then type 3s, what they call them, more humanoid and Bigfoot-like, that might support the Gugway. it might be a misidentified Bigfoot people are seeing. More big Dogman encounters in the day than night, which is opposite to Bigfoot's though. I did see my sighting of Bigfoot was in the day, but it's supposedly quite unusual. It was 20 to 4 in the afternoon in a valley, so that the light was dropping a little then. Sightings in cities as well as wooded areas for Dogman. Cities could be explained by misinterpretation and priming though. Fossil evidence record, as I said, Dinopithecus possibly. Gorillas though, look, if we can just go on to the next slides, please. That's the one of the Dogman projects, sort of looking at the different types of Dogman. So as you see there's some of them look quite Bigfoots, some look like goblins, some look clearly not right, standing wolves, hyena-like, all sorts of different ones. So that they're the different types, and if you can see type 3 quite Bigfoot looking. There's lots of different types, so yeah. Okay, and some have got human-like legs, as I say, some have got quite broad shoulders like Bigfoot, some have got quite narrow shoulders. Go on to the next slide, please. And it's demonstrated by this very rude gorilla at the top left, who's obviously pissed off. But as you can see, when they're angry, gorillas, their face pulls right out, so they actually look quite dog-like. And these sort of might explain their canines are sort of almost unbelievable. So, you know, it could be if Bigfoot is a type of ape or it's a type of early hominid with ape-like characteristics. If it gets angry, you can see, you know, how it might be interpreted as a dog if it's got its mouth open like that, showing its canines, especially if it's quite dim light. So, okay, if we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay. Always something else happening. As we said, priming, confirmation bias, and expectation, they can all affect how we oh sorry, go a couple back. Yeah,